Jerry Seinfeld recently had an interview with Bari Weiss. I told you guys before, yes, they are obviously friendly with each other. They're both Zionists. Jerry Seinfeld may be even more cringe than Bari Weiss when it comes to Israel and Gaza, considering he actually participated in an IDF, exercise where he pretended to, this is disgusting, where he actually pretended to kill like people. It's so gross. It's so gross. Well, now Jerry Seinfeld has an issue with the fact that he's being approached by protesters because of his cringe genocidal positions, and he has a problem with it. So one of the things that's discussed in this interview with him and Bari Weiss is just that, the youth generation.
Everything feels politicized right now.
Yeah.
And so you yourself have become politicized in a way.
A little bit, yeah.
Do you feel that?
I do.
You comfortable with it?
It's so dumb. It's so dumb. In fact, when we get protesters occasionally, I love to say to the audience, I love that these young people, they're trying to get engaged with politics. We have to just correct their aim a little bit,
So you see what he's saying? So he doesn't like the fact that he's been politicized, but he put himself in those positions. You put yourself in that position to be scrutinized and to be politicized when you participate in an IDF training exercise, where you actually go over there to Israel and you pretend to, kill people. You put yourself in that position. You put yourself in that position when you say on stage during your comedy stream, like, oh yeah, the kids in Gaza, and you mock the death of the kids in Gaza. You put yourself in that position. When you choose to be a celebrity, you put yourself in the position to be scrutinized and torn apart by the public. And if you don't want to be criticized, stay your ass in the house. Can't say it better myself. You know who said that? Jerry? Patti LaBelle said that. Patti LaBelle said, if you don't want to be criticized or judged and you're a celebrity, you went into show business. She said, stay your ass in the house. Bari Weiss, another Zionist. She's the one who created the mob of people on social media. She put out the call to attack Professor Rafir, who is dead. So people are pointing fingers at Bari Weiss because of that. Bari Weiss doesn't care about dead Palestinians. She doesn't care that this man was killed by the IDF. Does not care. Bari Weiss, now she has this Coleman Hughes figure, and you guys know how I feel about him. We talked about him. She's got this Coleman Hughes figure. This is not to say that Coleman Hughes is not a smart person. I told you before, I think Coleman believes everything that he's saying. But what I will tell you is I think that Bari Weiss chose him because of what he's saying. So now she found someone who had a black face to go out there and spew the Zionist lies and rhetoric for her, so that people can point to him and say, that black guy thinks so. And then some would argue whether or not Coleman Hughes is actually black, but we can get into that another day. We went through that before. Let's continue on with the interview.
They don't seem to understand that as comedians, we really don't control anything.
Right, right.
No one's really...
No, you're pulling the strings over the war in Gaza.
Yeah.
Right? That's how I think of you.
Yeah.
Let's pause there when he says we really don't control anything. Jerry Seinfeld isn't going to say in this interview that his wife is the one that funded, and I'll show you this. His wife is one of the people that funded the counter protesters that showed up at UCLA and beat the peaceful pro-Palestinian protesters at the encampments on camp. He won't tell you that. But they don't control anything. Because he's just a comedian. He's not controlling anything. He's not telling you what he's doing behind the scenes. who he's giving money to, who he's contributing to, who he's working along with. That was Bari Weiss's wife, Jerry Seinfeld's wife, and Bill Ackman, who funded those groups. So there's that. So for Jerry Seinfeld to sit here and pretend like, oh, I'm just a comedian. You're not just a comedian, and he knows that. You are a very prominent figure. Everybody that I know knows who you are or has heard of you because you had one of the most successful TV shows, which, by the way, was not funny because of Jerry. Jerry, you were not funny. Larry David is why you had the Seinfeld show. Do people know this? That's where Jerry Seinfeld comes from. But you were not funny, Jerry. The supporting actors on Seinfeld were funnier than you. Yes. George was funnier than you. Elaine was funnier than you. Kramer was funnier than you. Even though Kramer, real life Kramer, Michael Richardson, went on to say some racist things towards black kids at Harvard, but that's a whole other story. But those characters were funnier than you. You were just the name. Let's go on.
You've done a bunch of shows. Obviously, you're constantly doing shows. You did one in Syracuse in December that attracted protesters. And then they were chanting that you're complicit in genocide. Then when I gave this talk in February at the Y, there was this footage of you where they were calling you a genocide supporter and Nazi scum. And the thing that jumped out at me was not the things they were saying, of course, because they say it to anyone.
Yeah.
It's that you were smiling and waving and genuinely seemed to be enjoying yourself.
Yeah.
Were you?
Yeah, because he is a genocidal supporter.
Yeah.
Why?
It's so silly. It's like, they wanna express this, sincere, intense rage, but again, a little off target.
Right. Right.
A little off target. So that's, to me, comedic.
You were in Israel.
Yeah.
How is it off target? Eric, if you can see, if you can find that, if not, I'll pull it up. The tweet with Jerry Seinfeld when he's with the IDF. How is it all off target when you are literally doing training exercises with the IDF? How is it off target? It's not off target. It's not. These are things that Jerry Seinfeld chose to do.
Since the war started. How was that trip?
The most powerful experience of my life.
Really?
I'm sure. Yeah.
Why?
You just.
Are you thinking of someone in particular?
Sorry.
One thing.
Here come the tears. See, here we go. Here we go. And see, Jerry wants you to feel sorry for his tears, but he don't feel sorry for the tears of people, Palestinian Americans, that have cried because they've lost entire family lines in Gaza. He's just like, oh, the kids in Gaza. He doesn't care, but he wants you to feel his tears.
That I've been thinking about is how a huge part of the way you think about comedy is how the audience never lies.
Right.
But what happens if a lot of people are wrong? In other words, I don't think Jews do well in an age of mobs. And I feel that right now in our culture, it's really easy to form mobs.
Yes, really easy.
And what's the difference between the audience never lying, but when does the audience kind of tip into the mob? Do you see where I'm going with that?
I do.
There's something.
Yeah.
But I really have been wanting to ask you about, like for someone that relies on the truth telling of the audience to tell you whether or not something is funny, what does that same principle apply to a mass of people? You see what I mean?
First of all, to Bari Weiss, how are a lot of people wrong? A lot of people are not wrong. Right. So I cannot say this enough. Jerry Seinfeld is not oppressed. Bari Weiss is not oppressed. If you were to put both of them in a room with me, I can run off a list of things to their face that I've had to experience in my life that they never, ever had to deal with simply because of the color of their skin. They are not oppressed. Jerry Seinfeld is here trying to make himself seem like the victim. You wanted to be a celebrity, Jerry. You've been a comedian for years. When have you ever met a comedian that did not have someone in the audience say something to them that maybe pissed them off? That's the risk you take with being a comedian. It hasn't just happened with you. It's happened with Kevin Hart. It's happened with Tiffany Haddish. It happened with Eddie Murphy. It happened with Richard Pryor. And by the way, bringing up Eddie Murphy and Richard Pryor, we want to talk about comedians, people who are actually funny, Jerry, which you are not. And neither is Amy Schumer either. Amy Schumer also is not funny. I don't understand how some people in comedy they blew up with these big careers. Because they're not funny. They all have had it. Dave Chappelle had a guy jump out of the audience and attack him on stage. But Barry is sad and heartbroken and troubled because someone called him out on his genocidal bullshit. Thanks, Eric. I'll pull it up in a second.
Well, you can't act like we don't see this every day in many realms. Let's just talk politically, left and right. You're watching mobs. They're mobs. They're mobs believing their own crap, right?
Yeah.
That's what a political party is. We're going to make up a bunch of nonsense and we'll all agree to it, right? Right. Okay, let's print up some bumper stickers and get out there, kids. That's politics.
So now protesters, according to Jerry Seinfeld, are mobs. So for the protesters that protested in DC for the pro-Israel rally, are they mobs too, Jerry? Or is it only the people that were protesting for the Palestinians? Rich ass, wealthy Jerry Seinfeld is not oppressed. You wanted to be a celebrity. This is what comes with that.
So we're tribal animals. We're social creatures. We look for agreement and consensus. We're driven by agreement and consensus, and mob rule gives us comfort, gives us certainty.
Yeah.
It's all BS. It's all BS.
I think.
Where is Jerry Seinfeld's black friends in Hollywood that love Jerry Seinfeld so much? Where are they at on this? Where's Chris Rock? Where are you at on this? What Jerry Seinfeld has been doing. We'll finish what she says here, and I'm going to show you what he did with the IDF.
There's something like almost genetic about comedians that make them allergic to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you think it is, like, where does that come from inside of you?
The thing that you are incredibly fortunate enough to have, if you spend your life in comedy and do well at it, the gift that you were given is you see through the surface of everything.
Except when it comes to Israel. So let me show you what he did with the IDF, because see, Jerry Seinfeld is mad because protesters are approaching him, but Jerry Seinfeld doesn't want to tell you what he did that is making those protesters approach him. Now, shout out to Code Pink for capturing this. Comedian Jerry Seinfeld visited an anti-terrorist training camp with his family in an illegal Israeli settlement in the occupied West Bank. Share to tell that Seinfeld that Israeli occupation and military violence is no laughing matter. So, but you took this picture, Jerry. You decided to pose besides this IDF soldier. You decided to do that. And now you are mad because people are questioning your position on this issue, which they have every right to do. Every right to do. Here's another one. Because the tears don't work for me. You can dry the tears. Justin Timberlake said, cry me a river, because it don't work for me. So you can see it here as well. So here we go again. This is Jerry Seinfeld at Caliber 3, an Israeli shooting range in an illegal settlement that uses cutouts of Palestinians for target practice. This is what Jerry Seinfeld participated in. And he's mad because people, so you see? And he's mad at everybody else because you question him for what he chose to do. If you just wanted to focus on your comedy, why were you there, Jerry? Why were you there? And then there was the issue with his wife, with the funding. Like I said before, Jessica Seinfeld, she says, don't blame me for the UCLA counter protest. Seinfeld donated $5,000 to a pro-Israel counter protest at UCLA. That was the protest where the kids came in and they beat people. The kids were bleeding. On Sunday evening, she sought to distance herself from violence against pro-Palestine demonstrators at the school. So that's Jerry Seinfeld's wife. She chose to do that. She chose to donate that money to that organization. Then Jessica shared a second post tackling another hot button issue, her bankrolling of a pro-Israel counter protest at UCLA that occurred before a violent mob targeted a pro-Palestinian encampment on April 30th. During that disturbing episode, campus security looked on and police didn't respond for hours as pro-Israel assailants attacked protesters. So you guys remember the video footage that you saw that happened at UCLA? They funded that. But he wants to know why people are upset with him. I get tired of the lies. And so rightfully so, Jerry Seinfeld was called out at his show. Listen to him mock the children of Gaza at the end.
This is my wife's addition to my show this evening.
Save the children of Gaza! No more American tax dollars for genocide!
Shut up!
Save the children of Gaza!
Shut up! Shut up and get out!
You're a genocide supporter!
What's that?
You're a genocide supporter!
Out of here.
You should be ashamed of yourself! You should all be ashamed of How dare you! How dare you support a genocide! How dare you support a genocide! You fucking assholes! Get up. How dare you support a genocide!
Hey! Let go of him!
Stop.
Let go of him!
Go over there. You're ruining for everybody else. Go. Get the fuck up.
So do you see, this is what Jerry Seinfeld said. He said, I like it when the Jew hater spites up the show. So do you see what he just did? Because that individual in the audience said, save the children of Gaza, you're a genocide supporter. Notice how Jerry Seinfeld twisted that and said that he was hating Jewish people.
Genocide supporter!
You're gonna break his neck.
children of Gaza! Stand with the children of Gaza! Open your eyes!
All right, I'm going to keep going. Save the children of Gaza.
So you see how he mocked that at the end? Save the children of Gaza. Who pays to see Jerry Seinfeld do stand-up comedy? As I said before, he's not funny. So you can't get upset when people approach you because of the things that you've done. Why are some of these celebrities this way? You know, Caitlin Johnstone, she wrote an interesting article about this. Make sure you follow her on Substack, you guys. She writes some pretty base stuff. And she doesn't just, you know, obviously we're not just calling out Jerry Seinfeld. One of the most obvious ones was just DJ Khaled, who is Palestinian, has said nothing. And a lot of us have concluded that's because he's in business with Zionists as well. So he don't want to mess up his money train. DJ Khaled ain't said a damn thing about what's happening to people in Gaza. So I want to dive into this here. Why celebrities aren't speaking up about Gaza. So let's go in here. I want to make this a little bit bigger. There's two parts I want to focus on here. For the last 8 months, people have been expressing frustration and confusion about the reluctance of celebrities to use their immense platforms to speak out against the U.S.-backed slaughter in Gaza. But it's really not a mystery. Make this a little bit bigger. It's really not a mystery why this happens. Celebrities are reluctant to criticize the U.S. centralized empire because they benefit from it directly. This is incredibly true. We'll go on a little bit more. It's actually a very important aspect of imperial narrative control, how all of our society's largest and most influential voices are intimately dependent on the political status quo upon which the empire is built. Fame and fortune come as a result of being elevated by wealthy owners of media production platforms like film studios, record labels, TV, and news media. And those extremely wealthy people have a vested interest in maintaining the status quo upon which their wealth is premised. This is also probably why you will not hear Kevin Hart speak out about this issue, because he is very much in line with corporate powers. There was an interview recently on Club Shay Shay with Gary, I forget Gary's last name, another comedian, Gary, sorry, Gary, I forgot your last name, where he talked about why some comedians don't say the things that he says because of who they're in business with. It goes on to say here, those who are threatening to the status quo are therefore not elevated to celebrity status. And ones who get rich and famous either, A, understand this is acutely, or are too shallow and vapid to have any interest in rocking the imperial boat. Nobody becomes a superstar on their own. It requires an extensively collaborative relationship with many individuals, and many of the most important of these are in positions of great wealth and power and have no desire to see socialism or anti-imperialism threaten their kingdoms by gaining a foothold in the political realities of their nation. This creates an impressively thorough gatekeeping system, which filters out any clear-eyed rebels who might otherwise shine their way to the top. And this is why there are certain people you don't see on mainstream media. This is why there are certain people that never get to that celebrity status, because if their voice is considered to be too radical, or let's say they speak out against imperialism, those people will not be elevated, at least not by that status quo. Some of them may get there on their own, but those are far and few. And then how long will they stay there? Of course, the filtration system isn't perfect. Sometimes someone sneaks through. or more likely is waved through and then has a political awakening after achieving stardom. But for every Susan Sarandon and Roger Waters, there are 100 enthusiastic celebrity supporters of the status quo and 1,000 others who just stay silent on all matters of real importance. This part here, when Macklemore rapped about how the music industry's quiet, complicit in their platform of silence about Gaza, he asked, what happened to the artists? What do you got to say? And this is the answer. What happened to most influential artists is that they stand too much to gain from supporting the status quo politics of the empire and stand too much to lose by opposing it. And that is 100%. And this is why you don't hear a lot of celebrities speaking up about this issue. And if they do, they are repeating the status quo narrative, which is supporting Israel at all cost. Eric has put the link to that article by Caitlin Johnstone in the chat if you want to read the rest of that on your own. But she is spot on there. A lot of them are very much a part of and they benefit from that status quo system. Mm-hmm.